I'm 33, and for the longest time, I believed I was living a good, stable life, one built on love, trust, and shared dreams. I was married to Lena, 31, for 6 years. We met back in college, fell for each other during our sophomore year, and married soon after graduation. To everyone around us, we were the perfect couple, supportive, loving, balanced. And for a long time, I believed that too. I've always been the quieter one. I work in IT, methodical, steady, always climbing the professional ladder with focus and determination. Lena, by contrast, thrived in a world of energy and attention. Her job in marketing kept her surrounded by bright lights and louder voices, extroverted coworkers, social events, constant interaction. She loved it. I figured our differences complemented each other. She brought spontaneity, I brought stability. That was our formula. Or so I thought. Things started to shift, gradually enough that I didn't see it at first. Lena began working late more often. She'd come home distracted, distant. Our conversations lost their ease, becoming short, mechanical exchanges. The intimacy that once felt natural started to fade. And then there was her phone, suddenly always in her hand, face down on the table, password changed. She started treating it like a lifeline, never letting it out of sight. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But every time I asked if something was wrong, she'd smile tiredly and blame work stress. I wanted to believe her. I convinced myself that I had to believe her. The truth has a cruel way of cutting through denial. One evening, my phone buzzed with a message from a number I didn't recognize. Just a few lines that changed everything. You deserve to know what your wife is doing. She's been sleeping with her boss, Ryan. Along with it came photos, clear, undeniable. One of Lena and Ryan standing outside his condo, kissing. Another, taken from a distance, of them walking into a hotel hand in hand. My stomach dropped. My heart pounded so hard I could barely hold the phone. My hands were shaking. My chest felt like it was caving in. I waited until she got home. I didn't scream. I didn't fall apart. I just asked, and she didn't even try to lie. She looked at me and admitted everything. Calmly, almost with relief. She told me she hadn't meant for it to happen, but that she'd fallen for him, that she'd felt something different, something alive, and couldn't ignore it anymore. She said it like she was doing me a favor by being honest now. She moved out within a week. I watched the woman I'd built a life with pack her things, walk out the door, and disappear into someone else's world like ours had never mattered. For months, I lived in the ruins of that betrayal. I rebuilt piece by piece. Therapy, solitude, long nights of silence broken only by my thoughts. I wasn't just mourning a marriage. I was mourning who I used to be with her. And then, almost a year later, she came back. She showed up at my door with tearful eyes and trembling lips, said Ryan had cheated on her, too, that he'd grown tired of her, found someone else, moved on. She told me she missed me, that she'd made a mistake, that she still loved me. She wanted to come home. But I wasn't the same man she'd left behind. I saw her clearly now, not as a partner, but as someone who only realized my worth when she lost it. I had been the fallback, the safe choice, her shelter until someone more exciting came along. And I will never be someone's second option. So I closed the door, and I didn't look back. She told me everything, with the flat voice of someone who had rehearsed her lines too many times. Lena admitted the affair had been going on for 6 months. She said she hadn't meant to hurt me, that she had fallen in love with Ryan and could no longer live a lie. I sat there numb, my entire reality unraveling in front of me. 6 years of love, loyalty, and shared dreams, discarded like a broken toy. Within a week, she had packed her things and moved in with him. No hesitation, no visible remorse. She walked out of our life like it was a costume she was done wearing. I didn't beg her to stay. I didn't scream or collapse into a heap of heartbreak. I just watched her go, silent and shattered. What followed were the darkest months of my life. I stopped sleeping. Food had no taste. I dropped 15 pounds without even noticing. The world lost its color, and everything around me felt hollow, like I was living in someone else's story. But in that silence, clarity slowly began to rise. Piece by piece, I started rebuilding. I threw myself into work, got back into therapy, reconnected with friends I had distanced myself from during the marriage. I returned to the gym, not just to heal, but to take back control over my life and body. I was rising, not quickly, but steadily. Occasionally, Lena would send brief, vague texts. Hope you're doing okay. Or just checking in. I never replied. She had made her choice. I was no longer an option. Then, 9 months to the day she left me, she appeared at my door. She looked like a ghost of herself. Tired, pale, eyes swollen as if she hadn't slept in days. She tried to smile, but it faltered. "Can we talk?" she asked softly. I didn't answer. I just stared. "Ryan cheated on me," she whispered, voice trembling. "With one of the interns. It's been going on for months." "He said it was just sex," she trailed off, eyes searching mine for sympathy. "I gave up everything for him," she added, like it was some grand sacrifice. I let the silence hang like a storm cloud. Then I answered, cold and calm, "You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice." Tears welled up. I know I was selfish. I was stupid. But I've changed. I want to make things right. I want to come home. That was the moment everything crystallized. I stepped back, locked eyes with her, and slammed the door in her face. The sound echoed down the hallway. I stood behind that door for a moment, heart pounding, but not from sadness, from power. For the first time in months, I felt free, but that wasn't the end. She had torn my life apart and walked away smiling. Now it was time she learned what consequences felt like. Days passed. Then came the messages, paragraphs filled with apologies, explanations, and desperate pleas for redemption. I didn't respond, but I didn't delete them either. I had a plan. Not revenge, not cruelty, just justice, and perhaps a bit of closure. You see, Lena didn't just betray me personally. She humiliated me publicly. Ryan, her affair partner, was a senior executive at her firm. Their relationship had been office gossip long before I knew the truth. People looked at me with pity, like I was the last to get the joke. Friends backed away, unsure what to say. But now, I had a chance to reclaim my dignity. I contacted Daniel, a friend of mine who worked in corporate compliance at Lena's company. He had supported me quietly through the fallout. I asked him one simple question. "Do you still have that no fraternization policy between execs and subordinates?" 10 minutes later, he called back. "Ironclad," he said. "Why?" I told him everything. 2 weeks later, word got around. Ryan had been fired. Turned out Lena wasn't his only indiscretion. He'd been involved with at least 2 other subordinates over the past year. One had even filed a complaint. My tip had tipped the scales. HR had no choice. Lena, on the other hand, wasn't fired, but her wings were clipped. She was quietly demoted, moved to a low-level department where she handled back-end reporting. No clients, no projects, no visibility. Her once glowing career was now in ruins. She had become a cautionary tale in her own office. That's when the call started. She left voicemails, crying. She sent emails filled with tales of how Ryan pressured her to leave me, how he manipulated her, how he was emotionally abusive. I read every word and deleted each one without replying. I had moved on. I was dating again. At first, it was casual. Then I met Ava, warm, witty, emotionally intelligent. She had no interest in drama. With her, I felt like I could breathe, laugh, be vulnerable without fear. For the first time in years, I felt seen. Lena didn't know about Ava, but I had one last thing to give her, the gift of truth. I wrote her a letter. "Lena, you've reached out so many times. I stayed silent not because I had nothing to say, but because you hadn't earned a response. But now, I'll say my piece, not for you, but for me. You didn't cheat because you were lost or confused. You cheated because you wanted more. More attention, more excitement, more flattery. And rather than face your problems with maturity, you ran toward a fantasy. You didn't just betray your vows. You discarded a man who loved you, believed in you, and would have done anything for you. For what? A man who saw you as a temporary thrill, while you destroyed something real. You thought I'd fall apart without you. But I didn't. I grew. I thrived. I became the man I was always meant to be. Strong, confident, and finally surrounded by people who respect me. You made your choice, and I walked away from it forever. After that, she disappeared. Months passed. Ava and I grew closer. We took weekend trips, met each other's families, and talked about the future with the kind of calm certainty I never knew I needed. One evening, as we shared a quiet dinner, Ava looked at me and said, "Some people break you so you can rebuild stronger. I'm glad you got broken, because I love the man you became." That was the moment I realized I had truly won, not by hurting Lena, not by shouting or shaming. I won by living well. I won by becoming better. I heard later Lena quit her job and moved back in with her parents for a while. She's working at a small agency now. No major clients, no big campaigns. Just coasting, like someone who peaked too early and didn't know it until it was too late. Sometimes people ask if I ever think about forgiving her. The truth is, I don't hate her. I don't love her. I don't feel anything at all. And that, more than anything, is the sweetest kind of closure. Not the silence of anger, but the indifference of healing. She wanted to come back. I slammed the door, and I never looked back. Some doors, once closed, should stay that way forever.